Beautiful Sunday for another weekly Q&A session. If you're not familiar with what this is, it is a similar setup to the weekly live streams, except of course, instead of being live, it is pre-recorded, and we're going to be taking questions here from YouTube members as they always get priority. And then of course, we will go through the Discord as well. And by the way, anyone can contribute for free in the Discord community. There is a link to the Discord channel in the description below. And all you need to do is just find your way over here to the weekly Q&A section, as you might guess. And we will just go down the list once we get through a very quick Bitcoin analysis. So Bitcoin here still stalling out at around the area that we're kind of defensive against coming into the first week of May. Thus far, that does seem to be playing out to fruition. However, I want to continue to update on essentially what price would effectively confirm Bitcoin as putting in a local high here and very likely to come back down and swing down, maybe for a higher low, maybe for a lower low. But I don't think it's going to be a lower low anytime soon, probably a higher low along the way. But of course, that would change the dynamics significantly from what I think a lot of people are looking at right now, which is just a straight fucking moonshot to the heavens and beyond. To do this, I would first bring up the daily HPDR here for spot price action. And we can see that the median is coming in at around 94,750. So as long as Bitcoin's closing above there, Boolahs still have, I guess, hoping in their favor that this is not going to be a local high and that this is going to continue back to, $100,000 plus. Possible for sure, but if you start to see closures below that median, I would be expecting a run to the low side of that 38.2 level, still 91,700. That also was a general target for us on this first pullback for this current move, and that also does have significant relevance to the price action pivots indicator right here, which is pivoted at $93,000. So that's actually a little bit lower, of course, than that median on the daily HPDR. And if the median on the daily HPDR is taken out, then we would expect actually a run a little bit lower than this. Thus, you can effectively say it's very, very likely that this will also flip around as well, because as long as the price action pivots indicator is still showing this as a pivot at 92,900, technically, it can just be a quick washout move. And like I said, another try towards 100,000 plus. But below there, the trend actually does demonstrably switch around. And by the way, if you're looking for this indicator, it is actually available in the Teachable School in the link in the description below. You can also try it out for free now for 7 days free trial. And well, from there, I think we can just move onwards and forward. Oh, actually, one last thing. While we are here on the daily time frame, I do want to acknowledge that daily stochastic momentum is having one, bearish divergence from this high to this high, and then two, obviously, remaining downside crossed as long as Bitcoin is closing below 96,750. So, if I had to bet on a direction, I do think that Bitcoin likely puts in a local high here, moves its way a little bit down, but like I said, it's not really super wise to get super, super bearish in this instance. I think still the worst case scenario, at least in the short/medium term, is something like this, where it has that initial move down, a slight bounce right here, puts in that right shoulder, and then comes down, a little bit below $90,000, maybe to mid 80s or low 80s, and continues on with one massive accumulation range between basically the highs of Friday and also the lows of April, something like this. And that actually would be quite bullish long term. So, I really want to shy away from getting full on bearish here, because it's not until we actually have a full on downtrend confirm, which isn't the case as of right now, at least. Anyways, let's now get into the YouTube member section. As always, YouTube members get the priority during these Q&As, because we usually just run it for about an hour, which is all good, usually enough as well. But we'll start it off with Mr. Tom Struct here. He says, "Thank you, sir. Best wishes to you as well." He's looking at Tron versus Bitcoin daily weekly. Okay, very interesting chart actually to bring up, because Tron, from what I recall, I haven't looked at it recently, but I do remember from a couple weeks ago, it's actually one of the better looking charts overall. So Tron versus Bitcoin has taken a bit of a haircut on the weekly here for the past couple of weeks, but ultimately, this is pretty constructive behavior. It actually is, surprisingly enough, putting in monthly higher lows along the way. So long term, I will regret saying this for sure, but long term, if I'm just going off a trend, trend is your friend in this case. And when you do have a couple of higher lows right here, I do think that it could very well be within a pump phase. I want to go to some higher term timeframes here, because my intuition is saying, what the fuck are you saying right now, Crown? But hey, I'm just reading the tea leaves in this case. Maybe let's go over to this angle here. I want to see something that's super obvious, because right now I am just seeing, one massive range, but that range is exhibiting higher lows. So I don't like to get super bearish based off of that. And when I look at the daily is coming off of the blue 377 and also the daily 200 simple with bullish divergence on the daily stochastic oscillator and freshly crossed the upside. So I would have to say that Tron is actually going to gain versus Bitcoin here in the more near term. I'm not calling this one back to like the highs of December or anything like this, no. But, does it pop back up towards like 290 or 300 Satoshis? Definitely possible. When we go to the weekly, we can see that, it's still just at best one major massive range. And I really don't want to lean into like, bullishness here because it's just, long-term not wise. But I do respect the higher lows. So maybe it stays within this vicinity for a long time. Anyways, the current weekly range as defined by the price action pivot indicator is showing quite literally a range. It's no bias as direction goes, showing about 215 Satoshis to the downside versus 307, 302 to the upside. And yeah, we are actually live here on X right now, but we're just doing the weekly Q&A session from Discord and YouTube if you're joining in a little bit later. And by the way, 699 views. Nice. Very nice indeed. Was she hot? Nice. Anyways, I forgot to make one announcement as well. We have quietly just put forward the new trend script for the quantum waveband users. If you would like to claim it, all you need to do is just claim it in the exact same way that you claimed the original quantum waveband scripts and the trends trading strategy. I will add some more content around that between now and the end of this next coming week, but it probably is like pretty intuitive if you just even remotely understood, the original script. So yeah, anyways, as far as momentum goes, weekly turning down here. So, does it come down to the low side of the range first and then bounce again and then continue sideways here? Probably, if I had to guess, but I'm not saying anything like super, super obvious here, except for what you probably already know, which is the low side of your range is, 200, let's say. The high side of your range is 300. Anything between there is, is trendless, is formless. You still got lower highs in the monthly, but you do have higher lows on the monthly as well. Long term, the dominant trend is obviously to the downside. So I'm going to favor the downside, but whenever you start to get monthly higher lows, it does make you consider that there is a potential reversal. It's just, I personally, just based off of the history of this asset, would not, would go against it just personally, but I can see the allure for it because, to be fair, this is a better altcoin Bitcoin chart than most things. Like at least it's holding a range on higher lows, so you got that. Anyways, it's Asti says XYO. This is some sort of a Vanguard fund. Let's see. XYO, which one is this? Oh no, it's a crypto. All right, fair enough. I'm thinking of VYO as well. It's not even right. You can tell I had a lack of sleep last night. Yeah, we got the traditional shitcoin chart of death here. You get your first pump up from a cycle ago, dumps all the way back down. This one, however, to be fair, did not make new lows below its prior cycle lows in 2019. So there's that, and does have a few weekly higher lows here along the way in recent times. So not the worst of all time, but always difficult to love charts like this. Anyways, let me get back here. You're on the daily and the 4K. So very, very low term timeframes comparatively. And when I see shit like this, it's like, look, if I'm going off of technicals, I should probably bounce relatively soon. But this is a shitcoin at the end of the day. You can't trust these cones. You can't trust these cones. If I had to call it, maybe a short-term bounce, but I'd treat this one as bearish as long as you're below about 1.5 cent, and more likely to come back down to the April lows or closer to those April lows at around 1 cent, let's say. That would just be my personal take. If I'm going off of technicals, you should look for a bounce here, but I don't think that bounce is going to bring you back above this last local and lower high here at 1.5 cents. So, hard one to love, but I guess a little bit of hopium, although I don't think it's going to play out. I think that this one finds its way back down here, to be 100% frank with you. I actually didn't even check this. Momentum to the downside. Daily 5-day is actually up right now, but not really doing much on price action, as is the weekly. So probably comes back down to these lows, but I don't think it's going to break these lows. I do think that it gets another bounce attempt later on. It's just in the short term, probably gets a little bit of a pullback, depending upon your definition of a little bit of a pullback. And then you also asked about the 4-hour time frame. Yeah, we kind of already did this, I guess. Maybe a short-term attempt at a bounce. I just wouldn't be expecting anything above like 1.3 cent, or especially above 1.5 cent. And as long as 1.5 cent is not reclaimed, even on a 4-hour time frame, the trend is, the direction is down. So yeah. All right. Crypto Rect RD says, "Dear Sir Crown, how are you? I'm doing well, man. Thank you for asking. How are you doing, sir? Appreciate your work. I appreciate that, sir. With Bitcoin's potential higher low between 90 to 92,000 bucks. Yeah, I do agree with that. It's, from a technical standpoint, you should be looking around that area, basically 91,500 bucks, let's say, if you want to put a specific number on it. Can you please provide higher low range for tokens below?" All right, so we'll go deep, Uler, Fartcoin, virtuals. All right, we'll start off with deep. This one I actually think I have on my list, even though I don't really trade or hold it. But okay, so let's first acknowledge that we are adopting a potentially very wrong assumption here that Bitcoin won't just come down to 91,500 bucks, but will actually put in a higher low there and march its way back on, to new highs. Possible, yes. As from just a technical standpoint, yeah, you still got higher lows around there. From an intuitive standpoint, I think probably doesn't work out, but fair enough. Anyways, what would be the perceived similar region for these tokens? So we'll start it off with deep. Deep, I would imagine would get somewhere down around about 14 to 15 cents. So another like 10 to 20% move to the downside from here, and then try for a bounce there, essentially just reconnecting with that red 5 EMA on the weekly here. So I do think that that's possible for sure. That would be where I'd imagine the relevant region would be if Bitcoin were to take, another 3% downside move to 91 or so. So that would be my answer for that one. If we go to Euler, actually, I added this one to my list because I remember someone called it out and it looked actually pretty decent compared to, especially most shitcoins. Whoops, that's the euro dollar. Also looking better than most shitcoins, to be fair as well. But here's Euler. This one actually is this one actually looks good. This is very constructive. I mean, weekly time frame, we have data back to 2022. It's put in higher lows along the way. I like that, as always. And actually had a fresh breakout as of last week. So if this thing does pull back, let's say somewhere between 7.5 to maybe $7, that would be an opportunity in my opinion. Yeah, that would be the relevant region, and probably to the lower end of that. Let's say a monthly reconnect with that 5 EMA here, and that's going to actually be below $7. Doesn't need to get exactly below $7, but somewhere around there would probably be relevant. Again, if Bitcoin were to come down to 91, that is the assumption. Just be very, 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 very clear. Fart, the old fart coins. Fartcoin's another one that I really do think has topped for a while here. Now, again, I can be massively wrong about this. Anyways, if it does put a downside move, again, alongside a Bitcoin pullback to lower 91s, I'd be looking for Fart definitely below $1, somewhere close to somewhere between 80 to 90 cents, if I had to guess. But I do want to be on the record as saying, I actually do think that it has topped here. Looking at this weekly closure, I mean, the weekly hasn't closed just yet, but yeah, it's going to take a lot of effort to fix that one, I think. And then virtual. Okay, so this one's an AI, I think, something like this. Anyways, let's go to the crypto exchange. No, the index. This one actually having a pretty strong move and still holding on to a good portion of it as well. But just like the other ones, I shouldn't really be going against this too much as far as the general trend goes, because you do see daily momentum is certainly positioned to the downside. Weekly is popping up, yes, but they're getting all the way up here. And I think that this current rally is finding its conclusion. Whether it's here or maybe closer to $2, I don't think it makes a humongous difference, to be honest. But anyways, the relevant region on a Bitcoin pullback to 91 or so would be somewhere down around here, about 1.25 to 120, let's say. Again, this is a big assumption. One, that Bitcoin price gets there, and then two, that Bitcoin doesn't just bounce there, but forms a higher low and continues to new highs. Possible for sure. And again, if you're going from a technical perspective, you technically should be looking for that. But in my opinion, I don't think it's going to be super relevant. That's just me. Anyways, let's go back. Actually, I think that's it for the YouTube members. Let's now go through the Discord, and we shall start it off with Mr. Rectops. He says, GM. Thanks, man. Good morning to you as well. No other comment, though. Thank you for the nice positive message, sir, and all the best to you. All right, now we have Myth Reindeer. He says, hello, good sir. May has almost cometh. Yes, May the 4th be with you, and you are on a 4-hour strategy, backtested from January 2020 till now. It looks like you're using the Quant Prime service, which is awesome. And by the way, for anyone who wants to try out Quant Prime, especially if you're more, advanced, this is usually the person who does quite well with this. You can actually try it for free, again, for 7 days. Same old place as everything else, of course. Anyways, yeah, it's both long and shorts. Oh, okay. All right. This is probably not using the Quant Prime service because you can't do. You can't do longs and shorts at the same time on the same strategy. You can do it with different strategies, of course. But anyways, the starting capital is around 20,000. Just wanted to show you the P&L curve with results and ask if it looks good to you or if it starts to diminish in range without progress lately. You can't expect any strategy to be perfect, right? In general, you just want that equity curve to go up and to the right and to have a decent profit factor. And in this case, your profit factor is nearly 2. Your profitable trade rate is over 58%. This is a winning strategy. It would seem like just at face value to me more long term. Now, I can see that you have some pretty nasty drawdowns here. That's something that I would heavily consider because well, if you're going to trade something like this on leverage, I think you're going to have a big issue. But assuming you're not, I would honestly say if you want to optimize something like this, I would try to actually bifurcate these strategies between long only and then short only. And I think what you'll probably find is that the short only strategy is likely negatively contributing to this equity curve here. This is assuming that, you haven't overfitted anything, you haven't, done this or that, you've gone through it in a decent way. But yeah, you're asking, maybe I'm overthinking and everything is actually great. I mean, at face value, like I said, it looks good, but I don't know any specifics about the strategy, like the actual strategy itself. So I can't really make any other more comments, but what I would say just, again, at face value is try bifurcating this specifically between long and short strategies, meaning separate them and then run the calculations. Cause I think, oh wow, your short strategies are actually a higher profit rate, a higher win rate than your long strategies. But let's see, what about your returns here? Your returns on your long strategies is higher. Yeah, so you're going to get a lot more out of trading long only because your returns are higher, and you're getting more trades there as well. So if you could increase that, I think that that's probably a better way to do it. But again, you won't know the real answer until you test it. Yeah, your average winning trade here is 7%. Your average winning trade for the short side is 4%. So it's almost a 2x difference. So yeah, I guess my original thought is probably on track there, But again, test it out yourself. You'll know the answer, of course. For anyone else who's looking to set up shit like this, well, you can do it with Quant Prime service. I don't actually think that you're doing it, but yeah, I'll take that moment to show it as well, just because I fucking love looking at strategy statistics. I really do. Anyways, Mr. Van Duysen says, first off, no shit. Thanks for this successful channel. Well done, sir. I appreciate that, man. This channel completely started on a whim. I was on a fucking bodybuilding website, and I'd just been learning about the crypto markets, and we would go on the forums on that website and talk about crypto and shit like this with other guys who had avatars of like half naked pictures. Really fucking cool place, bodybuildingmyths.com. And from there, I was already a professional trader in equity options, so I was giving my opinions on shit, and people continued to ask more and more. I was like, why don't I just do a video, and that'll be easier. And then kind of led to this place. Anyways, to be honest, I tried shitcoin roulette, but failed miserably. Yes, many such cases, actually. Getting in around the highs and selling around the lows. Not taking the massive profits. Noob. You sound very self-aware, sir, which is a good thing. It's like doing the club levy spam in Swaby, yet somehow failing to take the decisive victory. Yes, exact. Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah, a Total War Rome 2 reference right there. Fuck yeah, man. I appreciate that. One question: what, in your opinion, is the most look back for determining divergence? Oh, okay. Like, how big of a look back can you use? All right, so I'll bring you over here to Caretaker's RSI, because this is the tool that I use for the RSI. And by the way, you can try this out for free as well for 7 days. Same link in the description here too. But what I currently run, and by the way, many people have different ideas on this, but what I currently run is 22 lookback bars. I know for a fact that Caretaker himself, who created this indicator, by the way, he does not go beyond like, I mean, I think he keeps it like really, really short, like definitely under 20, somewhere between like 14 to 18, something like this is what I recall. Now, look back bars at 22, I have gone higher in the past, let's say all the way up to 32, and you will find that a lot of them do work when you get divergence calls, even 32 bars away. But the hit rate of those working out will certainly go down. And probably even the returns on those signals as well, if I had to guess. But yeah, right now I'm running at 22, and I find that it's actually really, really good. But I have run all the way up to a 32 in the past. I mostly settled on about a 28, and I found that that's kind of like the sweet spot for getting a lot of signals. Still, most of them are pretty damn good, but you're getting a lot more signals, so that can obviously equate to just more potential setups, which is typically a good thing when you got a good piece of edge. So yeah. Anyways, the answer I would say, start low, then work your way high. Test these sort of increments. Test very, very low first, maybe let's say 16, then test what I'm doing right now, 22. I do happen to like 22 actually as of now. Then try 28, and then try 32, because they all have their own validity. It's just how you use it, of course. And I know that's like not a super helpful answer, but yeah, if you're going to be putting this with a simple stochastic, if you're going to do stochastic divergence, a little bit of a different thing. Stochastic, probably one on the lower end of that. Like it's, I would say maybe 16 actually. Try something like that, because the stochastic oscillator divergence usually is not as strong. So you want it to be more concurrent. Otherwise, you can't trust it as much. So yeah. Please, financial advice, not financial advice. Indeed. What's up, Vietnam Hodl and Melanie Dono and Mr. Rye as well, and Mono. Let's not get too excited about the alts never making all-time highs again. Yeah, again, I've been on record as saying that, and I'll continue to say it, man. I don't think most alts will make new all-time highs. This is not a controversial statement for anyone who's been around this market for even just one cycle. Again, that's most. Some of them will. There's always a handful for sure, and it's going to be whatever altcoin that you hold, I assure you. Anyways, Hamia says, GM sir, please look at others on high term time frame and low term time frame. Oh god. All right, so get to look at all the shit coins minus the dollar derivatives, or no, and excluding the top 10. Yeah, so going deep inside the shitcoin drawer right here. Terrible, just terrible. Again, this is a cycle high. Like it is. It is. You're seeing momentum oscillators turn down across the board. Here's your quarterly, here's your monthly, here's your weekly, or your weekly is actually turning up. So, does this one bounce a little bit more in the short term? Possible for sure. That would align with my thought that Bitcoin it very well could make a new high at around 120. But if Bitcoin makes a new high at around 120, where would I expect this thing to go? Maybe from about here to like a 50% move to the upside. Something like that would be about right. Maybe even a little bit higher. But again, that's a fucking high. Like I don't know. I don't really have any other thoughts on that, to be honest. Yearly might prove me wrong. What about a 6 month? Let's see. Yeah, I still think that this one has another downside move. I think you're going to find your way back down to like $1.25 billion at some point. I really do think that we're going to see like a reckoning of most shitcoins, because we're going to see a legitimization of this space, which means that things that are not legitimate will not enjoy the massive upside alongside the things that are legitimate, meaning that, most shitcoins are going to continue their trend towards zeros, and the handful of actual legitimate projects that have, real fundamentals behind them and everything like this, and like a real shot at success, those will make up for the losers and probably have significant gains. Now, which ones are these? Who the fuck knows? But yeah, as far as low term time frame goes, I mean, even in the short term, I think that this thing comes down, but I just don't think it's going to break below your April lows here. I think you come down a little bit like this, level out again, and then try a bigger bounce. Should get a bounce at least to the 200 simple at some point. But yeah, that's not the same thing as going to new all-time highs or anything like this. Steve, oh my God, man, your name destroys my dyslexia. Steve, dude, yeah, says XRP is going to 3,100. I read it on Twitter. That's right. It's the best place to get financial information from not financial advisors. Anyways, like the stock, says GM Crown, interested to hear what indicators you used for your options trading strategies. If you're still trading options, would you use the same indicators or would you modify things? So when I was trading options, or when I was making markets and options, it's a different game than trading like in the same way that you're kind of familiar with from like a TA perspective. When you're trading options, you're basically doing volatility plays, and you're trading options versus options. So you're really thinking in terms of option strategies rather than what indicators am I using. Now, if I were to trade options today, what would I use? I would use the HPDR, and I'd probably even use the HPDR cones here because they can give you forwards price projections. So you could say, all right, what's the likelihood that, the $90,000 strike for Bitcoin is going to be in the money, around the May regular expiration date. So that'd be somewhere around here. I'm guessing Friday, the 16th is going to be the third Friday. So that'd be your regular expiration. So, that would be, what's the probability of that being in the money? Well, it would be 70 something. I'm probably not doing this right in my head right now, but if this is this is a 50% level. Okay, so yeah, 50%. 50, that would literally be a coin flip, but at least you have a probability. Now, if you want to go further out on the risk curve there, you could say 61.8. Okay, maybe I want to short, again for that regular May expiration. Sorry, it's not going to be the 16th. It's actually going to be the next Friday, the 23rd. But anyways, lower probability of course, closing below $85,500. That would be the 61.8 level right here. So what is that? Like a 38.2? Yeah, that would be 38.2. I think. Again, I don't trust my brain right now because I'm lacking an hour or two of sleep that I probably should have had. Anyways, let's get back into the Q&As here. And let's go to Tristan. He says, hey bro, how's your scalp hair? Actually, it's funny you asked, man. I am literally in the process of getting a new hair transplant. So I'm going to be a hair trans times 2, and but I won't be able to get it until about about 1 month from now. But I'm looking forward to it, man. Anyways, the initial one went well, but it was always going to be that I had to get at least 2 of them to, make it decent because, I kind of rushed the first one, to be honest. It's better to wait till most of it falls out. So it's like I did the first one and it was pretty good for like a year or 2. And then it's like everything started falling out in the past year. It is what it is, man. Anyways, all right, cool. The Q&As are becoming your favorite part of Cave content. That's awesome, man. I'm really happy to hear that. Do you remember the question about bear market equivalent of 5-day 5 EMA long strategy? You said that it's hard to build something relatable due to volatile nature of bear market. So here are my 2 questions. What is the highest time frame you would recommend to look for low-hanging fruit setups in a bear market? The point that I was trying to make in bear markets is that most people are better off not trying to short a bear market and instead trying to buy on a confirmed reversal. That's really what I do think after looking at crypto for 8 years now, 9 years, something like this. Anyways, yeah. If you do want to trade a strategy, the one that I find works pretty fucking well in bear markets, again, not perfect, but pretty damn well, is the 5-day versus BBWP setup. those ones have led to some pretty nasty moves. So if I go over here, I can definitely recall a couple from the last bear market that were just excellent fucking trades. There was, oops, let me go to the 5-day. There was, of course, this first one here, leading the move from about mid 50s to, well, I mean, I guess all the way down to 35 on this, on this wick right here. Then you got the second mega fucking short signal right here, opening at about 41,000, taking you all the way down to 20,000. And then you had another one here, not as great, but did get the overall move. So, you get like 2 or 3 opportunities for those per market cycle. And then we've seen the same thing on the other side. We saw 1 right here, 2 right there, 3 right there. We've actually seen a lot. 4. These ones were, yeah, these ones were not. Actually, no, it did work out right there. So yeah. We've seen actually several to the upside, but yeah, that's actually a good sort of primer on why I think it's probably better to just wait for the long setups, anyways, just because you're going to get more of them. The market, conditions are just going to be easier in general. That's my personal take. Do you think it's harder to trade multiple timeframes in a bear market than a bull market? I can't even answer that question anymore, man, because I just trade only automated now, which honestly is quite boring. It is. I'm not above admitting it. It is boring. So I can't even answer that question. I don't fucking know. I don't think that you should be trading multiple timeframes anyways. I think that you should be focusing on one time frame and like really getting good at that before considering ever to move on to anything else. Because the more that you add, the more you're just gonna fucking run yourself aground with analysis paralysis and shit like this. Smicky says, hello, Commander. What's up, man? What is your process for backtesting an algo to determine its robustness to feel confident to run it? So I happen to know that you are obviously in the Quant Prime service. Just double checking right here. Yes. Okay. In the Quant Prime service, there is in the advanced section a module on forwards testing. That would be the answer. That would be the answer. What do you consider the most important as an extension to the general stuff like, walk forward? Okay, so you already know. What would you consider well, it would be the walk forward. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And then building upon that. And then of course, what's the best way to really find out if it's good? Run it on a test net or even better, run it on a low dollar account for a little bit, at least to see some iterations here or there. Now, hopefully, it's one of those strategies generally on a lower term time frame that's going to fire off more so that you can actually get those iterations relatively quick. But yeah, that would be the ideal situation. That is like actually testing it, but just not with your full size, maybe instead of like, for example, $100,000, you trade $1,000 positions, something like this. Very, very small, very, very small. You don't want to actually risk like real equity, but you do want to see, okay, is this acting as I would expect? That's the best way as always. The more direct you are, the closer you're going to be to the real answer. And there's nothing more close than that except for just sizing up. Anyways, Dunning-Kruger Effect says, hello, sir. Learning a lot from your streams. Awesome, man. In prior cycle for Bitcoin, I remember you saying that the most obvious thing to determine if we're in a bull market was the weekly trend. Yes. Is it still of some importance to you? 100%. In fact, if anything, over the years, understanding trend has risen higher and higher and higher and higher in my priority list. Because at this point, yes, other things do matter. Volatility does matter. Yes, drift does matter. Momentum kind of matters, but trend is the one thing that, especially as a retailer, trader, or investor, you can actually accurately account for and trade with. And it's always going to be there for you. Trends are more likely to continue than they are not. Thus, if you're going to create a strategy, you probably want to do it on the same side of the trend. So that would be my main thing. Yeah. If you're in a bull market, it's very easy to see from the weekly trend. Speaking of that, we could look at Bitcoin right here. And Bitcoin does have a downtrend or an uptrend. It actually has a downtrend right now. High, low, lower high, lower low. Is this a lower high? Kind of a lower high and a lower low. Higher high, but no higher low. So if you're bullish here, and I do think that this is actually not just relevant, but like reasonable, is that, Bitcoin pulls back and then you actually do set in a higher low. But, keep in mind your last low was the April low. So it could come down a lot and still put in a higher low and then try an upside move. And I think something like this is, again, more reasonable to expect if you are going to be if you're going to be bullish on Bitcoin and just crypto in general. I don't think this is the current move right here that's going to bring things back to, new all-time highs and shit like that. I think it's going to spend some more time consolidating within this overall range and just boring the shit out of people, similar to what we had last year. I mean, this thing is starting to really trade like an ETF. This is what I mean by it. Big move up, consolidate sideways, big move up, consolidate sideways for a long time. In the past, that was not the case for Bitcoin. It was just big move up, done. Same thing over here. Big move up, done. Like not multi-month long consolidations. Sometimes you might get a few weeks of consolidations in those prior market cycles, but it wasn't fucking months on end. I'll tell you that. What's up, Mr. Matthew Smead? My hair is trans. It identifies as gone. Yes. Mine is slowly disappearing. You can even see like it's thinning out so much here, man. It's crazy. Feels bad, but at the same time, it's inevitable, I guess. So might as well get used to it. I'm sure technology will fix it soon enough anyway, so who actually cares? Anyways, probably a bigger deal for Elsa than it is for me, to be honest. Anyways, MS33K. MS33K, very, very bearish. Fair enough. Could you please have a look at forex pair dollar versus, I think that's Philippines currency? Philippines currency? What? Is that how you say it? The Philippine peso. Yeah. All right. And what time frames are we looking at here, sir? Weekly and monthly. Nice. High term time frames. Okay. So where are we at in the grand scheme of things? We are at a major local high here coming down and actually about to make a new low. Thus, you have the makings of a mega massive reversal. Now the price action pivots is showing the next pivot at, 55.47. It's very close to that right now. I have a feeling it will trade below there, thus flipping this to a bearish setup. And we are going to see quarterly momentum turn down freshly at the end of this quarter, assuming it does not close above about 56.89. Monthly, same thing, already leading it. Weekly, it's already way down there. So, does it try for a bounce here first off of that 200 simple on the weekly and then roll over? Probably, yeah. How high can it bounce? 56.5 or so. But as long as it's below about 56.5, whatever the quarterly pivot is, I'd be looking for this one to begin its descent. What about the 6 month? Yeah, the 6 month looks like a local high, momentum down, bearish divergence. I think that this one comes down to low 50s. 51 or 52 in the next, this is a 6 month chart. Like it's going to take a long time, maybe like a couple of years, maybe even more. Who knows? All right, cool. Mr. Nick L. Us says, please take a look at MicroStrategy weekly, monthly, and all good, man. 2021, holy shit. Multiple cycles now. Fuck yeah. Okay, MicroStrategy. MSTR. Cool. All right. And what was it again? Weekly, monthly? Yes, it was. People going on to much higher term timeframes nowadays. I like the chart a lot more than I do Bitcoin. I'll put it that way. You are right at the last price action pivot. It was a bearish pivot, to be fair, at 404.5. And so it's very common when price approaches these pivots, even if it is going to break through at some point, that it does, in this case, pull back first. And I think that this one will pull back first, alongside Bitcoin pulling back. Now, this one has higher lows the whole way through, especially as long as you're above like fucking 270. So it's not a major concern for the long term, but could you pull back to 350? Yeah, in fact, 350 probably likely. Although just like Bitcoin, maybe down to like 85, 86,000 bucks. Even if it gets there, maybe it ends up being 91,000 bucks. That'd be a great place for another higher low. Yeah, all higher term timeframes are pretty strong as of right now. So I wouldn't be betting against that. But technically, if you want to wait for a confirmed breakout, we need to see a closure above 404.42, let's call it, or just 404.5. Then at that point, just floating on to new all-time highs. But until then, I'd be looking for a pullback here first, setting a higher low, then try for the move, still with that pivot in mind for confirming a real breakout. Okay, cool. All right, let's get back to the Discord here, and we got Mr. Lloydie. He says, "Hey Crown, can you please check out GNS? It's trading on London Stock Exchange. All right, weekly, monthly, quarterly. GNS. Okay, GNS. It's right here, London. Okay, has the chart of a shitcoin, which is always a great sign." You know, it's in a bounce area right here. I do think that this one will actually bounce more, probably towards 2,500, but that's a monthly time frame. This can take a long fucking time to work out. Weekly is reversing. We have now a bullish pivot at 1550. So as long as you're above there, I'd be expecting just general upside and pullbacks to be higher lows. And yeah, somewhere around like 2,500. I do think that this one will rally to at some point. I don't know, in this next year and a half, something like that. You know, decent as long as you're above that last pivot. Long term, not great, but yeah, short term, you know, can put in a decent move there. After a 20 years of practically up only, it looks like you got hit by a nuke in 2022. Many such cases, sir. Do you think price has lower to go before? No, I think that you're in the midst of a meaningful bounce right here, actually. Yeah, I mean, even monthly momentum's like working its way up here. So, you know, I think that you have a meaningful bounce. I just don't think it's going to be going to the fucking moon, or certainly not taking out this high here from 2022 November. So, you know, still probably a decent percentage move here. What is that, like 20% move? Yeah. That's where I would imagine it probably gets to, at least. And, you know, is there potential for a real reversal? Maybe. I mean, it's there's always potential, but I wouldn't call it until I actually see it. And for right now, you know, at least a pity bounce. Maybe it does reverse, but that's just going to take naturally a lot more time. So, you know, we can come back to it in like, I don't know, 6 months to a year maybe, and then see what's changed. All right. Nuke the Black Cube says, GM, Simp, and Virgin. That's me. Crown, I know you're into meditation, so I wanted to share this with you. I ain't clicking no links on the internet, on the interwebs. This is CIA's astral projection training regimen. Listen to it only wired with headphones. Oh, is it like binaural beats? That's pretty cool. I'll listen to that later, man, but probably not the best content for a YouTube video. So I'll get to that one later, man. Thank you, though. Mr. Barash says, HypeUSD on 4 hour and daily. Sure. Where's my hype? Yes. Where's my hype? I do think you're in the process of putting in a local high here. Bearish divergence on daily stochastic oscillator. Momentum to the downside as long as you're below 2080 or 2087, I should say, which it is below right now. So I do think that you're in pullback territory. Just like Bitcoin, just like many other things, have to be looking for a higher low first. You know, I think 18.25 is a pretty obvious target to the downside. If things extend from there, then, you know, maybe it comes all the way back down to like 14, 15, but I don't think it's going to make new lows on any sort of a pullback. I just, you know, I think at worst it'll do something like this, put in a higher low there, and then try perhaps another upside move. Again, this is assuming that Bitcoin has not put in its highs just yet, but obviously if Bitcoin has put in its highs, just be straight fucking down. But pull back into a higher low, give it another chance to prove itself on a rally. And if it can trade back above this past week's high, you probably got at least another shot around $30 before it's all said and done. 4 hour time frame. Yeah, local high right here. Maybe one more bounce and then another downside try. All right. Mr. Ann Mark says, hey, Crown, I went through Crown School. Great staff, by the way. Awesome, man. And now I'm really trying to dirt my hands with PineScript on your described strategies. Thanks a lot. All good, man. I have 2 questions. Have you considered in PineScript an optimizer, for example, based on... you can do all this kind of stuff, man. You can use machine learning and all this sort of stuff, but at the end of the day, it can't do it for you. Like, you still need to provide the base strategy, and then it can work off of that. So it's only going to be as good as the groundwork that you lay for it. Do I do stuff like that? We actually do have tools like that in the Quant Prime to forecast. It's actually the Quant Companion, which is actually freely available. You can just go to the website and it'll calculate these things for you. But if I'm being completely honest, do I spend a lot of time on that? No, I don't. So yeah. And yeah, we have actually all these things here. In fact, I'll just show you really quickly. Let me see. I still got it. Actually, hold on. It's not the right website. I'll have to post this probably later. It's, again, not wise to do while you're... Yeah. All right. We'll have to do this another time. But yeah, if you're in the Quant Prime, there is a module pointing you towards it, or also in the Discord, there's a pinned post with a link to it as well. So yeah. Could you explain the base indicators for the, there is no base indicators. It is a new indicator. It's not like an RSI plus a stochastic or anything like this. No, it's a completely new thing. It's just going off of, what the most recent pivot was, as defined by the algorithm. So yeah, no other, other than that, it's unique, man. Anyways, Lovewood says, morning, brother. What's up, man? Always good to see you. I just had my firstborn delivered 5/3. Fuck yeah, dude. That's awesome. That's congratulations, man. That's awesome. Thanks for teaching me a great life skill. To many more. Cheers. My fucking man. SPY futures, 4 hour. Yeah, let's check it out. I'm always interested to look at traditional markets, to be honest with you, man. To me, a lot more interested in many ways, especially as of recent. But yeah, 4 hour here, similar to Bitcoin, I do think that traditional markets are rallying into what will end up being a lower high, but also similar to Bitcoin, I don't think this is going to be a lower high and roll over to new lows. So can this rally extend a little bit more? Yeah, I think the rally is quite tired already, but if it get extended all the way to the white 200 simple here, that would be your like picture perfect fucking classic bull trappy region for at least a big pullback. Could be something like this, right? Pops up here, comes down, sets in a higher, I don't know, somewhere around here, does a sideways stance, and then tries an upside move. I think that that's actually a likely path for traditional markets. And you can see in past bear markets or just big downside moves, there's always been one attempt, or at least one attempt around the 200 simple, and that is where you expect those lower highs. So you see this one from 2022, it was held by the 200 simple on the daily, several times on the way down. Same thing over here, one quick rally to the 200 simple and then lost it. Same thing over here a couple times. Same thing over here. It's not going to be perfect, but it gives you a general idea. And as long as price action is kind of around it or below it, you should be more on the defensive than not. Anyways, is that relevant to a 4 hour time frame? Actually, I would say yes. So whether things have topped out literally right here from what we've seen on the high of Friday, or whether they head up a little bit higher towards 5,800, I don't have a strong opinion on that. My strong opinion is on this one pulling back somewhere in this vicinity here. I mean, shit, man, knowing SPY and the way that it likes to trap, it could trade all the way up to like 5,900, and still play out something to the tune of this. Maybe not exactly, of course, but something like that is kind of what I'd be thinking, man. So hopefully that was helpful. Puffin Man says, GM, sir. Can't believe I've been lurking in the background here since late 2018 and never posted a comment. I actually am mad about this. I always love meeting the OGs who have been on this channel since, especially the beginning, like yourself, 2018. Like, Jesus, man. But anyways, better late than never. But I do boost viewing figures by one, nice, by tuning in every single morning. Awesome, man. To get my daily dose of girthy green dildo mornings. Just wouldn't be the same without them. Fuck yeah. Anyways, you want to look at Tesla daily and weekly. Got it. Last week you were suggesting price would likely be revisiting the 180 region. I think I'd be wrong about this, actually. I've been looking at this one recently. So let's go back to it. I have not seen where it closed out. Maybe I'm still right about this. I do think, yeah, it is possible to come back down to 180 or 190. I think that would be a major opportunity. But for now, this move has been pretty impressive so far. And I would say as long as this thing is below about 309 or 310 on at least a daily and preferably weekly closing basis, I do think that move is still possible. But it's very obviously in a bounce phase right now. So I think I'm going to get that one wrong. Now, here's the counterpoint to what I'm saying, where I could say, well, actually, I'll probably be right on this, is the daily time frame is still being held by the 200 simple. The stochastic also is about to turn down, to open up this next week. So if you are going to get a pullback, I guess it, could be coming from here. Like I said, might trade up a little bit north of $300 first and then turn down. But as long as you're below 310, yeah, there is still a possibility of that pullback. And yeah, I guess I'm talking my book here. I would like maybe not 180, but like 185 to 190. So it's like, does it, has it put in a low here? Does it come down a little bit lower? I don't know if that's like that big of a deal, to be honest. It's less than a 10% move, which is not much for Tesla. What I do know is long term, this thing's come down about 56% from its highs currently. It is obviously less than that currently, maybe closer to like 40% off the highs. As a long-term investor, I look at that as investable. Yeah, it might come down more. That's fine. You know, never go fucking balls deep into a position. So you can always grab a little bit more if it does head lower. But yeah, I think that this one, I might very well be wrong. Not yet. It hasn't been proved just yet, but I do think there's a good chance of that one for sure. Last week you were suggesting, yep, okay, but I think there's been a price pivot since then. Depends what time frame you're on, of course, but as long as the 5 days above 215, yeah, there's no chance of that just by the dynamics of a trend. Same thing with all higher term time frame pivots. It looks like actually daily's pivoted at 223, a little bit different there, but not much. Yeah. Hopefully that was helpful, ma'am. Unicord says, hey, Crown, do I care to check out Monero? Actually, Monero is pretty interesting. My nose is so itchy right now because it's so fucking, there's such intense, what's it called, allergies in Finland during this time of the year. XMR. No, the real answer is that I'm doing a shit ton of cocaine. Kidding, okay? Fucking kidding. Anyways, Monero had a tremendous move this week. Big wick to the upside. Has not held on to even half of that move, it looks like. Yeah, went up about 55%, now up less than 20%. So losing more than half of that move. And also, more importantly, kind of not taking its chance to reclaim this critical region here at 315. So I do think next short-term move is to the downside. It should reconnect somewhere around 250. Hopefully, for your and Monero's sake, it does have a heroic bounce at 250 because you could technically still be bullish as long as you're above there. But below 250 or especially below 240 on any sort of a higher term time frame closure, and I'd say this thing has yet another failed rally. But give it a chance, you know. Yeah, as far as the short term goes, I think you're putting in a local high here and then you work your way down to like 250 or something. Should bounce at 250. And then for the Bulaw's sake, hopefully that bounce carries you back above 300 and then probably all good. But yeah. Is this one actually, I mean, it does have higher term time frame, higher lows. So there is that. So long term, it probably is okay. It's just, is this the move? Who fucking knows, man? I intuitively look at that and say this doesn't look like the move necessarily to me, at least for right now. I'd imagine that move, if it is going to happen to the upside, would not happen until after June. All right. Let's see. Simply Red says, GM, sir and Zer. Firstly, thanks for all of the gay as fuck comments over the years. Wife hates you more than anal. Lol. Secondly, long sub 2019 OG slave. Fuck yeah, dude. Appreciate you and your Finnish slave. And finally, ZIGCHAIN. There we go. We got to it. Oh, good, man. Appreciate the comment, brother. ZIGUSD. I don't think I've ever heard of this one before. Is this a new one? It's not that new, I guess, from 2022. Yeah, another chart that looks to me like it's put in its next macro high. Yeah, I really don't like this one, man. But what time frame were you looking on? Daily and weekly? Daily, I think it's literally just putting its next lower high here, momentum to the downside along the way. I think it's going to destroy this price action pivot along the way as well, just to be really fucking clear. But just like most things, I think most things are not going to be making lower lows than their April lows, at least not for a while. So if it does come down, I do think that you get another bounce, actually. Maybe something like this. It looks like, oh, I have charted this one before, so I must have seen it before. Who knows? It wasn't even that long ago, I guess, February. Anyways, looks like the LARP lines are directionally correct here. Anyways, let's go to a weekly, perhaps. Yeah, I mean, ugly, right? But I don't think it's ready to break down to new lows just yet. I think, you know, at worst, you come back down close to those lows, like 6.5 cents or something, and then try a bigger bounce later on. But, you know, if I'm making a comment on, is this thing going to take out its December highs? Hell no. I mean, how far away are you even from there? More than a 50% move. Yeah. But, you know, this thing can bounce a lot, like could bounce all the way up north of 10 cents, you know, 11, maybe even 12 cents and still be long-term ugly as fuck. Like that's kind of the problem with these things. Or maybe it's not necessarily a problem. I mean, maybe that's the sort of bounce that you're looking for. Completely fair, completely valid, of course. Anyways, J35 says XRP daily, weekly. Curious where this might find resistance points if it continues higher. Okay, so the assumption here is that it's going to continue higher. I actually don't think that it will, but if we're adopting again this assumption here, where would be the areas of interest? Okay, if it continues from here. So it's right now at it's gotten rejected from the 382 level. Your next major region would be basically $2.50, and then you got 270. Those would be the two next major fibs. Above there, you got, of course, this swing high is always going to be relevant for at least a short-term pullback. That's at $3 even. So a nice round, even psychological number there as well. And then, of course, after that, you got the all-time high at 339. Those would be the next 1, 2, 3, 4 areas of interest I'd be looking for if it can actually reclaim this 38.2 level right here, which so far it is not. But yeah, here's the thing that I could say about XRP is that, look, if Bitcoin does make a new all-time high, this would be one of the few altcoins that I think would make all-time highs with it. Yeah, price action pivot's showing a big one on the weekly at $3. So I'd definitely be aware of that one. All right. Apparently I've clicked on the wrong damn thing over here. My bad. I'm late, says Matthew Smead. All good, brother. All good. Let's see how deep into the... Oh, wow. We're almost to the end of it, actually. Already nearly an hour in. Anyways, Manticore is next. He says, hello, sir. When to use log on TV? Do you prefer it more for macro? What time frame of conditions do you switch to? Okay, so when do you use logarithmic scale on TradingView? Use logarithmic, use log scale on TradingView when you're looking at like very, very, very long-term price action for an asset that actually does trend, something like Bitcoin right here. You can see on a linear scale, it's not going to make sense at all if you want to, make some sort of comparisons between the 2013 cycle over here, which is barely a blimp on the radar, versus, the current price of Bitcoin. It's just not helpful. So if you do want to see more long-term and making a long-term analysis, you got to use log scale for it to, somewhat make sense. Now, I say this, and my fear is that you're going to do this on a shitcoin, and you're going to be like, oh, it's really not that bad. It's like, no. It is that bad on shitcoins. Like, don't get me wrong. But when you're looking at Bitcoin, when you're looking at stocks, when you're looking at things that have proven themselves over many years, at least like 5 to 10, I would say, then yeah, you can do this to draw analyses on, significant periods of time. So in this case, we're looking at, 15, 16 years now, right? Something like that. So yeah, does it affect any of the TA indicators and tools you use? It shouldn't, unless if it's a drawing tool. If it's a drawing tool, like you put in a trend line or a fib retracement, that will change it. Yes. I believe, but indicators, no, they're not going to be affected by that. Like your RSI value is not going to change, for example. You're just going to be able to like see the points in history, and you're like, oh, okay, that actually makes sense. All right, Chev next says, GM, sir, I've got a good chunk of cash around $30,000 from getting lucky with meme coins. Nice. One of the few, but one of the proud. I want to start using this cash to invest into Bitcoin for the long term, 10 years, like I do with stonks. In your opinion, is the best option to deploy all the cash now at $95,000 and continue to DCA every 2 weeks with a couple $100 that I earned from my job, or to just DCA every 2 weeks with a couple $100 and wait till the bear market? Yeah, that I was literally just thinking this last point. Look, you can DCA now with smaller amounts. Fine, sure. I understand that you get a little bit of position. It makes you feel better about it. You have some exposure. Great. Okay. That's fine. Small amounts. But the big amounts, you want to wait for, a bear market. And do you just like blindly put it in as soon as a bear market starts? No. If Bitcoin is basically down from the highs for like 10 to 12 months, that's the time. That's the time where I'd say, okay, put that money to work. This is where you have a good setup for yourself long term. And because your DCA amounts are, relatively smaller compared to that big nest egg there, yeah, if you wanted to start now, that's fine. I mean, Bitcoin is still what, like 20% off the highs, or actually, no, it's probably not anywhere near that anymore. Hold on, let's see. 13, 15%. Yeah, 15% down. Fine. Whatever. It's okay. All right. Let's get back to the comments here. And we have Cloud. He says, good morning, Sir Crown. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're doing well as well, sir. What do you do when your TA goes against your back-tested strategy? Oh, then, okay. So this is actually a really good question because I think it's where a lot of people misunderstand like YouTube comment. So you're saying no matter which side I pick, I get it wrong. I'll feel stupid. Would love to hear your thoughts on this. Okay. Well, the very obvious answer is go with your back-tested fucking strategy. That's the point of fucking back-testing it, man. And when you're trading, you don't like, what's the point of having a strategy at all if you're just not going to even fucking follow it? If you're just like, oh, but my TA Stoke RSI over here is breaking a trend line and it's going down, but my strategy says that I actually fucking back-tested and put some real work into says that this is a long opportunity. It's like, what do you think? No offense, but what do you think, man? I mean, of course, you're going to go with the back-tested strategy. Otherwise, you have no strategy. And anytime you take a position without an actual strategy that has been back-tested, preferably, I mean, it should 100% be back-tested, your expected value over a long enough period of time is zero. It's zero. It's always zero. You cannot have plus EV when you don't have an actual strategy because you're going off of nothing. You're going off of nothing. Yeah, I'm sure, you can find your TA signals here and there, but if it's not incorporated within a strategy, it is nothing. It's meaningless. TA indicators, or just indicators in general, they are absolutely meaningless without context. The only way that they have context is within the confines of a strategy. All right. Nice. Tobo says, GM Crown, I appreciate you. Hope you, I pray you're hydrated. In fact, I think I'll take this as a note. Looking for your perspective on the price action on gold weekly, monthly. We looked at this one. It was either last week or this past week or 2 weeks ago or this week. And I said, this thing's topping out soon, if not already. And I think it's now safe to say, I think that it has indeed topped out. Let's go over here to gold. Yeah. I think that this thing's topped out, and I think that you're going to see at least a move down to 3,000. Personally, I think that it will go even lower than that, somewhere between, let's say, 26 to 2,800. I don't know how low it's going to go. I mean, this is a great top, though. Many drives of bearish divergence on the weekly time frame, probably on the monthly as well. Actually, no, not on the monthly, which is interesting. But if I had to call it, I do think that this is the top, and you're going to see this thing move down to somewhere between 26 to 2,800 overall. Just a personal opinion, I suppose. All right. Def Not Craig. I wonder who this could be. You often mention that the HPDR is your favorite indicator. Can you talk about it, why you like it so much, and your favorite way to use it? Okay, so the HPDR, which is this indicator, well, it does include the cones, it does include the bands, it does include the HPDRO, and of course the HPDRV. So there's a lot of tools within this package, but what we're going to focus on is the HPDR bands here, because this is the one that I show most often on streams, and I think most applicable to most people. So it gives you probabilistic ranges based off of historical price action, which is just basically an automated way of seeing where short-term supporting and short-term support and resistance points are. And the median acts as kind of like a bias buster. When price is above it, you generally expect it to kind of float up. When price is below it, you generally expect it to come down when volatility is expanding. However, if volatility is, of course, contracting, as measured typically by the HPDRV, which is HPDR volatility, or I actually personally like to use the BBWP. This is not, I don't want to say this, but I should say it because it is true. I think that the BBWP indicator is actually a better volatility indicator than almost anything else that I've come across, and that includes the HPDRV. It just works. It just fucking works. Theoretically, the HPDRV should be a better gauge of volatility, but I just find that this thing fucking works, man. So when volatility is contracting, you look for moves towards the median, maybe even reversals. When volatility is expanding, you look for moves away from the median, depending upon which side prices is on compared to that. And then, yeah, you get the you get the probabilities according to that price level, which is just, obviously very, very valuable. So yeah, it's a very unique thing, man. I don't really see anyone else talking about like historical returns and relating it in a way like this. It's just, I think it's a beautiful indicator, man. And again, you can try it out for free. Like, there's really no risk with it. For some people, it's going to be super valuable. For some people, it's not going to be valuable at all. The only way that you'll know is if you try it out, and you can try it out for 7 days free. And Mark says, in one of your cohorts, you mentioned that mostly you trade few large cap. I literally only trade Bitcoin. No other bullshit, man. However, during a bull run, there are plenty of shitcoin opportunities. Yes. And tell me how well that's worked out for you and the countless others, especially coming from crypto school community. Sorry, but for fuck's sake, man, do you apply any bot strategy to a portfolio of God, how do people think that these things are in any way, shape, or form legitimate? For fuck's sake. It drives me fucking mad. It really does. Sorry, I don't mean to be spewing this as like hate towards you or anything like that. It's just, I see this so fucking often. It's just like, what are you talking about, man? And Ethereum is not even in this equation to begin with. Look, when it comes to creating back-tested algo strategies, or even if it's not an algo strategy, it just whatever you're backtesting, you need more history in order to make a more robust strategy. Do you trust a strategy for an asset that's been around for less than a year, less than fucking 2 or 3, 5 years, versus a strategy that has been tested over 10 years, 15 years, 20 years? Obviously not. And for the initial years, for the initial like year or two of any sort of new shitcoin, you can't even really trust that price action to begin with, because it's such a low it starts off at such a low market cap that price is just going to operate in a way that it's not going to do in the future. And the real strategy for 99% of alts is to just short whatever rip that you see and hold that short, for like a year until the cycle is over. Something like this. Yes, you can make a shit ton of money on alts. Absolutely. Can you make it consistently? I mean, I think that there are several examples out there in the world, specifically with that community as well, where it is just not fucking true. It's not fucking true. When you're trading, when you're investing, you want to trade high probability setups. You do not want to trade low probability setups with also a low amount of payout. Yes, sometimes they can have very high returns. This is getting lucky. Like, people look at fucking some shitcoin chart and they see that it went up like 200x over the course of a couple weeks, and they think, oh shit, if I just got on this, I could have turned my $100 into 100,000, and that's great. This is not real. I mean, it is real, but it's not reasonable to expect, because very few people can actually trade it perfectly like that. It's very, very difficult to do. And more often than not, you end up giving the money back, whether it's on that trade or ones in the futures. Like, most people, almost everyone would be better off just forgetting anything other than Bitcoin in the crypto market existed. Yes, there are a few other legitimate altcoins, for sure, 100%. I have no comments on which ones those are. I don't really know myself, but I can assure you that if you're playing probabilities, you can assume that 99% of cryptos in the market, because there's like over 100,000 cryptos, 99% of those are absolutely fucking garbage and will only go closer and closer towards zero over a long enough period of time. Yes, for the other few major winners, they will have significant gains. I'm completely fine with saying, I don't fucking care to make it my game to find those things, because I'd rather just have more steady and more, and more well-documented history for backtesting on something like Bitcoin, for example. And even then, I mean, Bitcoin is, for the long term, like kind of low, honestly, in terms of history. Like, stock market is where you need to go to. And actually, we have a great comment here on Twitter from Steve. I almost fucked it up again. Steve, dude, yeah, he says, those huge pumps you see on alt are designed to pull you in. This is true. I 100% agree with you. And you're saying that it's designed by insiders to pull you in to empty their bags of free tokens. Yeah, I mean, what is typically the play? Start some sort of a shitcoin. You hold on to 90% of the supply. You get a few of your friends to buy it up so that it looks like, holy shit, this thing's up like 500% in the last week. This thing is going to the fucking moon. I don't want to miss this one. I saw the last one do this as well. And holy shit, I can't miss it again, man. I'm going to turn this $100 into 1 million quadrillion dollars. And it's fucking greed, man. It's fucking greed and stupidity is what it is combined together, which is a terrible, terrible combination. Maybe not stupidity, but certainly ignorance. Like, they just don't know. I want to assume that they just don't know, not that they're actually like fucking retarded. Although it is a retarded action to do, it is not. It does not necessarily make you a retard. It just makes you uneducated. But yeah, that is the game with a lot of those coins. Like, a lot of the shillers that you see on Twitter and YouTube, they're paid to shill these things because the creators of these coins know the game. They know how to play with your emotions and how to kind of, grab you in that way. Because so many people feel that way because it's a natural human thing. Naturally, we have greed and fear, right? And I can verify this because I get these same requests, on Twitter and in emails, and I've never done it and I never will do it. But for fuck's sake, man, it's very interesting to see the amount that you actually have to pay, or that these guys get paid to completely fucking destroy their reputation. In many cases, it's like less than $50,000. Like, really, you're going to do that? Like, you're going to destroy your reputation to talk well about some sort of new shitcoin? It's like, Jesus fucking Christ. May the fourth be with you, as always. Indeed. And you as well, sir. Low liquidity tokens are easy to hold at a certain price also. Yeah, for sure. For sure. All right. And again, I apologize. That was not meant to be a personal thing towards you at all. It's just, I see this a lot, and it's just sad, honestly. It's very sad. Jim Bob 365 says, "Hey Crown, is XMR bullish on the bi-monthly, or is that rejection off the middle a reversal incoming?" I wouldn't say it's not a reversal, but it is likely going to continue to play within that long-term range. So if we go to the bi-monthly as you suggested, you can see very clearly here when you go to a higher term time frame that, hey, your range is between like $300 to the upside versus the lows at 120. If you reject from the top side of the range, what typically happens? You come to the middle of the range at least. And if you fail the middle of the range, then yeah, you come to the bottom, right? But this one hasn't even gotten anywhere close to the middle of the range. So, that's why I say first, let it come down to about 240, 250, see what the bounce is like. If that bounce, which is very possible, comes back above about 300, closes above there on a higher term time frame, yeah, you're probably good. But if you really start to see it dip much lower than that, I think you got the 50% play on that range as usual. So yeah, man. All right. Roth's Chad. Nice name. GM Crown, been watching you since early 2020. Fuck yeah, man. Learned a lot. Awesome, man. I'm really happy to hear that, actually. Best guess, when do you think Bitcoin enters a new bear market? And what price will it bottom out at? Okay, so I could very easily adopt the mindset that Bitcoin's already topped out, or more or less topped out, whether, like I've been saying, 110 is the high. It's basically 110 here, or whether it goes up to 120, 125. I think that this is likely the high for the cycle. So once it puts in the high, how long, I think was the question, how long and how low? Oh no, just what price? It depends where it tops out first. I guess it's not going to make a humongous difference whether it's 110 or 125, but I would assume somewhere between like a 50 to 60% drawdown from there, without going like through, a lot of calculations and whatnot, which I'll save for another like dedicated video. I think that the drawdowns for Bitcoin are becoming significantly less from cycle to cycle. In past, it has been reducing from cycle to cycle, but not by a humongous degree. This one over here was like 90%. This one was like 85. This one over here was like 80, and then the most recent one was 77. But I think because Bitcoin is maturing so rapidly and getting adopted so quickly, and especially now that it has ETFs, I think that you're going to see it trade like an ETF, which means the upside is going to be capped and the downside is going to be capped. And I think that we might see a significant reduction in your traditional bear market drawdowns from 80% basically to 60 or 50. So let's say Bitcoin does top out at 120 or somewhere around there. 50% brings you down to $60,000. 60% brings you down to $50,000. That's kind of where I'm at right now. I think that things will bottom somewhere around there. Assuming that I'm even right on this to begin with. Maybe I'm completely fucking wrong. There's no way to really know until we actually have it happen. But that's just what I'm thinking right now. If Bitcoin makes significantly new all-time highs, we're gonna have to readjust those numbers. But I'd still stick with the same thing that I'm saying as far as, I don't think the pullback's gonna be as nasty, and I don't think it's gonna be as long as well. So yeah. All right. Back onto it, and I think we are. Oh wow, we're well over an hour now. Jesus. All right. I think maybe we need to end things right there because we've already done virtual earlier. Maybe this last one. Ladies Man 217 says, "Hey Crown, what is better, DCAing into Bitcoin at regular intervals or buying large amounts of Bitcoin at points of max?" Of course, buying large amounts at points of max fear is the way that that is the way that I do it when I'm doing long-term investments, just in general. So yeah, that can be like a higher term time from low RSI as you suggested, definitely possible. completely fine. So yeah, or the way that I do it in traditional markets is like say, okay, if it's down 10, 15%, I put in this amount. If it's down another 10, 15%, I put in that amount. If it goes down another 10 to 50%, okay, I put in this amount. You know, this is the sort of way that I like to do things. I don't like just blindly DCAing, you know, on like a weekly basis or something like this. Okay, there's actually really, this one just caught me out of the side of the eye, and I don't know if I don't understand this question or if it's so off base that I'm not supposed to understand it. Okay, I've noticed in your strategies that you base it off a trade size of 300,000 or 500,000. How do you trade that much in one trade? You literally just put that number in the size column on your favorite exchange. I'm just trading spot price, where the majority of order in the trade book are just a few $100. That you're either on the most shitty of shitty exchanges, or you are not looking at the right thing. Yeah, man. You can buy or sell as much as you want, as you know, as long as you can actually supply the collateral for that position. I mean, you might not get it at the exact fucking market value, the best bidder, the best offer currently, but you'll get filled on some, you know, somewhere. Might not be exactly where you want, but yeah, 300 to 500,000 bucks. That's really small. I mean, it's not okay. It's not small, but it's not much. That's not going to like be difficult for the market to absorb. Above like 3 million to 5 million in position size, okay, the market's going to start to move when you try to go in and out of that position for sure. But 500,000 or 300,000 especially, like, market absorbs that without any issue at all. All right, that's where we're going to end things for today. Way longer than what I expected, but a fun time nonetheless. I want to thank everyone for joining on in. As always, tomorrow we'll be back to the normal, the regular programming here. No, the good old daily analysis. And on that note, I want to wish everyone the best. Take care, much love, and see you hopefully Monday.